Welcome to your economics class on agenda today, the continuing episode of our economics classes where we interview the country's top economists, veterans, and academic experts or authorities and tell you what is there to understand. And nothing complicated, ladies and gentlemen, but we feel that it is important that we should also know where our economy is going, what should be the guidelines, etc., or goalposts, etc. But before all of that, let me thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. The program is Agenda on Cignal TV channels 8 and 250 under One News PH. If you are a Cignal subscriber, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much for being Cignal subscribers. And if not, you can continue to watch us on Facebook.com/OneNewsPH, as well as doing the same on YouTube. We are really grateful that you go out of your way to catch the program, even our replays. Now, for today, it's July 21, 2022. Let's move on with the day with our daily starter. And I have a story. Acceptance and contentment can be the devil's handcuffs. This is a warning I gave to a very dear friend who told me that she had taken on a job and that she was explaining to her children that alam niyo mga anak, ganito talaga ang buhay. This is the way of life. And she had resigned herself to an 8-to-5 job. Now, the thing is, this woman is an accomplished individual. She has held high positions, not only locally, but regionally. And I was telling her, delikado ka, Marites, delikado ka. You are in danger because you are surrendering to a norm, to a lifestyle that is not necessarily correct. Okay, just because you're gunning for the salary, okay na that you don't have family time, etc. And when you accept that this is the way, medyo mali po. Sabi ko nga. There are many individuals out there who did not have a diploma but became a success. There are many individuals there who defied social norms, defied being in an office setting. I'm not against office settings, but when people start saying this is the way of life or this has been how it has been for decades, medyo wake up. Ask yourself, is this correct, or is the devil simply making me content and accepting of what shouldn't be? Okay? Medyo baka mag-isip kayo, ano ba nangyari kay Beltran? What is Beltran up to? No. COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things. And what it has taught us the most is about relationships, about family, and about doing what you've always wanted to do while you still have the time and while you still have a life. Don't accept and don't be content. Go for it. Okay, let's now go for our front page in the Philippine Star. Today, the headline, Sarah, blended learning to be institutionalized. Kung Amerikano magbabasa nito, what, you're going to send him to the psychiatric ward? No. Okay. Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte said, the concept of blended learning has to be studied, put into a proposed program, and become part of the system. Okay? Medyo baka, iba kasi sa inyo pilyo eh. Okay? So, blended learning, a combination of teaching methods and programs will be developed and will become the norm for public school education. Okay, at the top of the front page, new Omicron subvariant sure to enter Philippines. According to Dr. Ronjin Solante, it is a question of not if but when. And the new variant, ito yung parang sayupi. Pag ikaw ay may 2.75 grade ka, okay na. But this time, 2.75 is the number allocated or assigned to the new COVID subvariant that is deemed highly contagious. They're all highly contagious naman eh. Especially if you are the one who gets contaminated. Okay. Meanwhile, that photograph of a warship or a boat with a gun, cannon on it, is none other than the BRP. Okay? Barko ng Republika ng Pilipinas, Antonio Luna. Okay? Philippine Navy personnel test the warship BRP Antonio Luna in the rim of the Pacific exercise, and that was held in Hawaii from July 12 to 15. So meron na tayong mga bago-bagong gamit. At the right side of the midsection of the front page, BBM names new TESDA chief and bowler Bongku to PSC. Okay, the TESDA has a new chief in the person of Danilo Cruz, and who was a former I think undersecretary, if I'm not mistaken, and bowler Bongku. Okay, Sri Lanka has elected a prime minister as president, but he is the recycled politician in Sri Lankan politics, and a lot of people in Sri Lanka were not happy. That photograph, that photo in the center spread of the Philippine Star, the front page, the University of Perpetual Help System, DALTA, holds its first in-person graduation for its junior and senior high school. Magpasalamat kayo. Nagkaroon kayo ng graduation ceremony. Maraming mga estudyante cannot look back to that experience during the last 2 years because no such thing happened for them. Okay, 83% of Pinoy's hopeful worst of COVID is over according to the Social Weather Station survey. Ganun naman po ang Pilipino. Kahit iniindulto na, pag-asa pa rin ang nasa puso natin. Okay, Philippines keeps top tier in fight versus human trafficking. Congratulations, because that is a global curse. There is a modern-day slavery, human trafficking of women and children, etc. And according to the U.S. State Department, the Philippines has been at the top of its game fighting global trafficking. The photo on the right side is a photograph bigla ako namamatanda ako today, okay? Is an image of brother and sister senators Alan Peter and Pia Cayetano together with doctors and lawmakers during a press conference calling on President Marcos to veto the bill regulating vaporized nicotine products or vaping. We support po that campaign against vaping because it is not good for people's health, especially the younger generation. The photo on the left bottom part of the Philippine Star, young employees pose for a group photo in front of the Newport World Resorts new signage. Medyo sila po ay yung Resorts World nag-rebranding, changed their packaging, and now they are calling themselves Newport World Resorts. Hindi na sila Resorts World. Okay. Higher airfares loom, okay? And this is something I mentioned yesterday in the program kasi malikot po ang Kuya Cito, and that is now a big problem for many tourists and travelers because traveling has become very expensive if the only means is to fly. Okay, we will go for a quick break and then we will introduce our visiting professor of economics, our expert who has been gracious to teach us kasi alam niyo po, marami sa atin allergic sa math 11. Isa na ako doon, nag-math 77 ako. Yung iba allergic sa economics 11 or economics 101. But if you don't know these fundamental subject matters, you won't understand what the politicians or government is trying to do. We'll go for a quick break. We'll just test our setup. And when we return, we do our class today here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda. Like I said, it's the 21st of July. It's a Thursday, and we are going to talk about economics, economic subject matters, etc., etc. Let's refresh our audience with the introductory of our visiting professor.
Ernesto Pernia was the socioeconomic planning chief under the Duterte administration. He is also a writer and a professor emeritus at the UP School of Economics. Pernia previously worked at Asian Development Bank. He was also a consultant for the World Bank, the United Nations Center for Regional Development, and the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, among others.
Okay, Secretary, good morning, Professor.
Buenos dias. Buenos dias, Cito.
Okay, sir, you seem to have a crystal ball of sorts because I remember in our last interview, I asked you about interest rates and about whether or not the government should raise or lower interest rates. And you said they are already late and they should raise it by 50%, by up to 50 points ba yun, or 50%.
And 50 basis points, yeah.
50 basis point. And as it turns out, they even went as high as 75. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, yeah. That was a bit of a surprise to many, and 50 was to be expected, but the additional 25 basis points was some surprised a lot of observers and financial analysts and economists.
Okay, what does that mean in terms of our daily lives, in terms of the, economics of the country? What does a jump to 75 from the projected 50 to 75 basis points, what does that tell you?
Well, our inflation rate has gone up from 5.7%, I think, in May. It went up to 6.1% inflation in June.
Mm-hmm.
So we're usually 1 month late because these things are calculated by the Philippine Statistics Authority, and they cannot possibly be present. They cannot be. They cannot give you the inflation rate
real time.
July. There's a lag of 1 month.
Okay.
The previous month. So that is the reason why, and also other countries have been raising their interest rates. The U.S. has raised its interest rates quite large, and so many other countries, Asian countries, have been raising their interest rates. So if we do not follow the trend, then we'll be left behind, and our inflation rate may become unmanageable.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason to the mechanism there is that if you raise interest rates, then the spending of people goes down because mas mahal ang pera. Interest rate is the cost of money.
Mm-hmm.
So if the interest rate is higher, then nagmahal ang pera. So it's harder for people to spend as they used to.
Mm-hmm.
And by so doing, then it reduces the pressure on prices, because if the demand for goods and services continues to be strong, then tataas pa ang inflation rate.
Mm-hmm.
That is the main reason for raising interest rates.
Okay, pardon the very elementary question, but I represent the greater number of the audience. This determining the inflation rate, you said the Philippine Statistics Authority cannot do it in real time because there is a lot of inputs, etc. Is there a formula? Is there a fixed formula for determining inflation rate? Kasi I remember there was a big argument as to what is the right inflation rate a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago to be exact. And I was kind of wondering, how do these people even determine the real inflation rate?
Well, the Philippine Statistics Authority, they have a lot of analysts there. They're able to gather data from different sellers, producers, and from that they cannot look at all the they cannot possibly capture the prices of all producers and sellers, but they're able to get a good sample, a big sample enough of the supply side, and so they are able to calculate more or less what is the correct inflation rate.
So is inflation rate based solely on products like gasoline, electricity, food, or is it also does it also include bank interest, loan interest, etc.?
Yeah, those things are all included. The main thing is what how prices have been behaving for people who are buying these things.
Okay.
Food, especially food, oil, or food, food and oil, food and fuel rather. They are very important. Gasoline and electricity is also important. These are very basic. These are main ingredients or components of inflation rates. And in the case of food and fuel, they have been rising fast because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Yeah. Also, there's a global supply chain problem.
Yes, which has affected the global supply problem.
Okay, Secretary, hindi ko na sabihin Professor, Secretary Pernia. Okay, you mentioned, or we agreed that there was an increase in interest rates to 75 basis points. Now, does that mean, I have to watch my mouth on this one, pero di ba may mga saying na, oh, yes, we are in trouble. Well, when you say, because you said they have to increase it to 50, and they increase it to 75. Are we in a bad situation?
No, I think the governor, Philip Medalla, who is a colleague at UP, he felt that we were behind the curve. In fact, because we started a 50 basis points increase in policy rate only. I think we did that only in May, right? And people were saying we should have done that earlier. So we were getting behind the curve. That's the expression.
So parang make up move yan.
Tama. Naiwanan na tayo, kaya parang catch up yon. Catch up yung 75 basis points.
Okay, when you raise interest rates, people don't borrow money, and when people don't borrow money, people don't do projects. Does that mean that we're going to have a setback in construction, infrastructure development, business investments, etc.?
Well, they are going to be less. They will borrow less, but because it's a higher, the price of money has become higher, so they will borrow less. The other thing about raising policy rates, it's called Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas policy. Interest rates are called policy rates because Bangko Sentral is the main body for inflation and prices. And the other thing is that if we do not raise interest rates, then the value of the peso will depreciate even further. Remember that the peso used to be what, 50 pesos to the dollar. Now it's 56, more than 56 pesos to the dollar.
Yeah.
Because as mentioned earlier, the interest rate is the price of the currency. The higher the interest rate, the more expensive the currency is. So it raises it prevents further devaluation of the peso by raising interest rates.
Okay,
it's not only to dampen demand for goods and services. It also prevents further depreciation of the currency vis-a-vis the US dollar, for example.
Okay, because some people, there seems to be two schools of thought regarding this. Some people say, hey, if we had exports and we had manufacturing, we would be raking it in because we would have cheaper products and more to sell. And some people are, on the other hand, saying, we're doomed, the sky is about to fall. What is your assessment regarding the continuing depreciation of the peso to the dollar, is this do we just coast with it? Will things improve in 6 months? What could change the situation?
Well, when the dollar, when the currency, the peso is depreciated, then it becomes our exports more attractive, because exports become cheaper to the importers abroad. So that will help our exports. So the depreciating the or yeah depreciating the peso. When the peso depreciates, then it becomes our exports become more attractive. And it's important for us to export more, because the trade deficit, we have been importing a lot more than we are exporting. So our trade deficit has been swelling.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is the other advantage of lower value of the currency.
Yeah. Now, having said all of that, Secretary Pernia, because you were also head of the NEDA, etc., what sort of an economic development plan can the Marcos administration put together in the face of all these challenges? I mean, COVID was bad, but some feel that what we're facing now is even tougher.
Yeah, it's tougher because it has become tougher because of this Russia-Ukraine war, and there seems to be no end yet. There's no light at the end of the tunnel in terms of when that conflict will stop. So that is why it's not only the Philippines, but practically the whole world is is having adverse have been the whole world has been adversely affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and that is the thing. And so well, it seems that actually it's just one country versus the Russia, and one would think that why should we care too much about that one country? But actually, practically the whole country are concerned about the conflict, the way Russia is attacking Ukraine. That's the thing now. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in terms of in response, because the reality of the Russia-Ukraine war is already on our shores. It has brought in fuel, high fuel prices. It's disrupted our supply chain for raw materials, particularly in the agriculture sector. But in terms of responding to this, as we observe the pronouncements of the Marcos administration, as early as it may be, too early as it may seem, what is your reading? Are the necessary actions being taken, pronouncements being made? Because when I last interviewed you, you were talking about prioritization. And what have you observed? What would you recommend?
Well, I think President Marcos Jr., he is concerned and he is focused on improving food supply, food and fuel supply. And he is thinking of having contracts on fuel and food with countries, so that we are assured of adequacy in terms of these basic necessities, food and fuel. So he's looking at that, and that I think that is also the reason why he has decided to lead or to head the Department of Agriculture, because that's where food is coming from. And that is really, well, we cannot increase food supply overnight. So I think, but I think he feels that there's need to get started on boosting on ramping up our agriculture so that we can have more food available locally instead of having to import so much of our food requirements.
This idea of government to government negotiations or agreements, how viable is that, and what would be the term limits to that? Because some people might say, hey, that's a 6-month deal, or it should be forever.
Well, government to government contracts, are gives you more assurance of delivery, of availability. But then so many other countries are thinking of the same thing because they're in the same situation. So we don't know to what extent we can have enough friendly governments that would that we could have supply contracts with in terms of our food and fuel requirements.
It's a bright idea if there are takers and
That's
willing partners.
Yeah, if there are not too many who need that kind of approach. But it's not just the Philippines who it's not just the Philippines who is thinking of that kind of approach. It's many other countries because many other countries are in the same situation.
What about the idea of the Philippines becoming the biggest buyer in town? This has been raised time and again in other areas where the Philippines has the money, the Philippines is the deciding authority, and it would make, short of a government-to-government arrangement, the Philippines should also consider, kami na lang, we'll do the buying and we'll do the distribution. Although it brings back memories of the fertilizer program in the 1970s. Medyo, parang, here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, our ASEAN neighbors, many of our ASEAN neighbors are doing quite well in terms of their agriculture. Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia, they are not having too much difficulty with food supply. So these are the countries that we can have government to government transaction, and because in ASEAN, as you know, we are the least. We are the least in terms of the agriculture, the
growth,
the agriculture growth. So that is our advantage. We have neighbors, and ASEAN countries are supposed to help each other. And there is that kind of implicit agreement.
Well, it's good you mentioned the fact that we are ranking as the lowest in terms of agricultural growth. Now, last week there were quite a few squabbles on Facebook and in media regarding the status of the Philippines, or whether or not the Philippines is an agricultural economy. And some people have even been saying economists don't know what they're talking about. Now, who is to blame? Whether it makes sense or not, who is to blame, or what brought us to this situation where our agriculture just really lagged? I mean, I remember during the time of Ferdinand Marcos in 1965 up to 1969, we were on the top of the food chain. Now we are sending money out to our neighbors, and they're feeding us.
Yes, yeah, we have kind of neglected agriculture. And that is really missed opportunity. If we had sustained our agriculture, our emphasis or focus on agriculture, then we should probably be food secure. We need not bother too much about importing food requirements. So, and the other thing is that our population is the fastest growing.
Yeah, but Secretary, where did we go wrong? But before you answer that, let's go for a quick break. But I would like to pursue that question. Where did we go wrong that we ended up practically abandoning agriculture as a major instrument in economic development? We'll be right back here on Agenda. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and joining us is former Socioeconomic Development Secretary Ernesto Pernia. Secretary, welcome back. And I just want to pursue that last question I had for you. Where did we go wrong, or how did we end up misappreciating or underappreciating agriculture as part of the economic priorities?
The usual stages of economic growth, Mr. Beltran, is the economy starts with agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Then when agriculture is well developed, it goes to industry and manufacturing. That's the second stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then when industry and manufacturing are also mature or well developed, then it goes to the service sector.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the stages of economic growth. And that is what many countries, developing countries, followed. In our case, we did not spend too much time developing agriculture. And many say that it's because of this agrarian reform program that limited, that tried to distribute land areas to farmers,
Mm-hmm.
parang to make farmers equitably provided with land, which meant that parcels of land instead of having scale economy, kasi malaki ang land area for production, parcels of land were subdivided into smaller pieces, which makes productivity lower, which curtails farm productivity. So that is one explanation of why we did not succeed in developing fully our agriculture sector.
Well, that's a great answer, Secretary. Although, I'm kind of sitting on the fence whether we should be pro-agrarian reform or not. But through the years, I have heard so many top business executives mention that agrarian reform ruined the Philippines, and there is no more area for corporate farming. And a number of people I know who loved agriculture back in the 60s and 70s, some of them have passed away, have told me, I'll just put my money elsewhere because it's not worth putting it in agriculture unless they come to admit that agrarian reform is a failure. Now, do you agree that land reform in the Philippines is a failed aspiration and should just be abandoned?
I would say that it is more a failure than a success, much more a failure than a success, and also it took so long. Our agrarian reform program took so long. In the case of Taiwan, for example, they had agrarian reform, but they finished it quickly, so that in the longer the program goes, the more difficult it becomes successful, because there's too many interferences from different sectors. So that is one reason. The other thing is, as I've said, we failed in our population program. So families in the farm areas are having many more children than they can provide for. So they have to, a farmer, for example, if you have so many children, you subdivide your land possession into so many smaller pieces of parcels of land. And that is another reason.
And at the end of the day, they just sell the property.
That's correct.
They pay for hospital bills to deliver the children, pay for this and that. So you end up, there is nothing left. And then the children go to the cities looking for job and staying in what we called squatters areas and having more children. And so it's just a total mess.
Yeah, and a good example is if we compare the Philippines with Thailand. Thailand, really did very well in terms of the agricultural development, and at the same time, they also manage their population growth quite well. Go ahead. Sorry. As you know, Thailand is only 70 million now people. We are 110 million people. In 1970, we were the same population. We were the same. 37 million tayong dalawa, Thailand and the Philippines. But now Thailand was able to manage its population and kept it at 70 million now. We have 110 million and still growing. Our population is still growing at 1.5 million babies a year.
Wow.
So it's become unmanageable.
So it's not just agriculture; it's also population management.
Well, yeah, because these things, these things are they are mutual. There's a mutuality between the economy and population.
Okay. Now, my question, Secretary, Professor, can we still save the day? Do we still go back to agriculture as the primary component of economic development. Parang kumbaga sa basketball, nung panahon natin, di ba? Time out, di pa ako gaming. Ngayon, game na. Parang ganun. Can we do a restart on agriculture, or should we look into other areas for economic drivers and development?
No, I think we should now go into corporate farming. Yung big areas of land that can be cultivated by modern tractors. Yung modern farm equipment. Kasi it's too late na eh. It's too late na to start from having farmers till the land themselves. We have
even cooperative, Secretary.
Well, cooperatives we also failed in that regard, which Thailand succeeded in. So those are the issues that made us fail in agriculture.
Okay, now, as far as corporate farming is concerned, PPP projects or private sector initiatives are concerned, I have been having lunches, dinners, and what have you with these concerned groups. And many of them say that, Cito, we can help build up the country. But government has to get off our backs. There's just too much regulation. There's too much requirements. There's too much interference. In other countries, they say people will shake your hands and bow because you're trying to build the projects. Here in the Philippines, there are politicians who are trying to delay the project so that they can buy all the surrounding properties for land banking, and you will have to buy from them. Government is also a competitor, direct competitor in development projects. What's your take on that, Secretary?
Yeah, you are hitting the nail on the head, Mr. Beltran.
Sito lang, sir. Sito lang.
Oh, yeah. So that's a correct reading of our situation, our problem, and too much regulation, and the more regulation there is, the more graft enters into the picture. You know that, right?
Yeah. Now, what about PPP? Because when it started, it was a good idea, except that people told the president back then that PPP could be done in a year. Turns out that it takes at least 3 years of groundwork for a PP project to actually take off. And now we don't hear much about public-private partnerships. What's your view on that?
No, that was not favored by the previous government, by the Duterte government. And the Department of Finance and NEDA. I was in NEDA then. We were at odds in terms of PPP, because I was favoring PPPs, public-private partnerships, whereas Department of Finance did not like it. Anyway, now, because of our fiscal constraint, we are really we have a high indebtedness. You know that we are indebted to the extent of 63% of our GDP is our indebtedness.
Yes,
and that is quite high, because the red flag is at 60%. We have already breached the red flag of 60%. So, because of this, we are fiscally constrained. We have a we have a much smaller fiscal space, as we call it, small fiscal space, and that is why we need to really go into PPP projects, public-private partnerships, because there are so many private sector proponents or businessmen who would like to get involved in projects, but they also want to be sure that it's profitable enough for them. It's not the government regulating them, or restricting them in many areas.
Quick question, and may I ask for a quick answer? If it's my money, it's my land, it's my project, how can government interfere and say, oh, it's not viable, it's overexposed, etc.? Parang, hello, ano ba pakialam nyo? Pera ko ito eh.
I don't know. No, it's the PPP is not so much applicable to farming and to agriculture. It's
No,
more,
I mean in industries.
Infrastructure projects. Yes.
Yes.
Infrastructure projects like the Skyway 3.
Yeah.
Ramonang, that's a public-private partnership.
Mm-hmm.
The Skyway going to the airport, NAIA.
Yes.
That's a public-private partnership. And the Bulacan airport that's being built now, it's public-private partnership. Those are the examples. Also the one in Cebu. Cebu has a very good airport terminal now.
Airport and the bridge, the Cordoba Bridge.
Cordoba Bridge. And those are all public-private partnerships. And they're well done. They're okay. We have this ODA supposedly from official development assistance funding from China to build a long railway from Manila to Bicol.
Yes.
To Sorsogon. But it never panned out because, as I was saying earlier when I was still in NEDA, well, we better be careful with China because there's a quid pro quo mindset there.
Yeah, we give you the pautang, but we build it, we bring in the employees, we bring in the equipment, everything needed comes from our factories, etc. So, in other words, binaon lang tayo sa utang, sila mayroong negosyo.
No, pero that's one part of it, Cito. The other part is because of their interest in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. Diba? They are not agreeing to the arbitral tribunal.
Okay.
We own so much of the West Philippine Sea, but China does not want to admit that.
In other words, they will lend us the money. Yeah, they will lend us the money, pero may sabit. You
better keep quiet about the arbitral tribunal.
Yun, okay. Now, what recommendation do you have? Because people have been saying, well, dump China and look for a better lover.
No, that was my preference. I was saying that, as I've said, quid pro quo is going to be very, important for China because of our win in the arbitral tribunal, the UNCLOS.
Yeah.
But we have better friends. Japan is a very, we have been getting ODA, official development assistance from Japan at very low interest rates. China charges 3%. Japan charges less than 1%.
Yeah, 0.5, I think.
Yeah. And then Korea, the same thing. And then Euro countries, Australia, so I was.
Was there ever a group that came to you or the government, past and present, or your time? I mean that hey, we're experts in rail development. Let us bring it. Let us build it because Korea is now offering. There's a Korean firm offering to help us with the smaller nuclear power plants. What about in the railways?
Railways, no negotiation yet. On railways with Korea, but I think Japan can handle that because they are doing the subway now, the subway system in Metro Manila, and as I've said, Japan is they have no quid pro quo mindset, okay? Because actually, I think my own guess is that they are contrite about what they did to us. What they did to this is just my own thinking.
Yeah.
They're being contrite to us because of what they did to us. During the war, about the atrocity.
Well, and yeah, and of course the diplomatic relations and the relationships with the Philippines, I say, yeah, in terms culturally has vastly improved,
Yes.
and the Japanese perspective has widened, so they can be very good partners.
Yes. And so, Cito, people are saying that we should review and revisit our railways project with China, because under the new administration of Marcos Jr. But my if I had my say, I would say let's drop that whole thing and let's just go to other friendly countries.
Okay. Now, when we last spoke, we were talking about priorities given the budget restrictions, the indebtedness, etc. And we did touch on agriculture heavily today. But other than that, what is the fastest solution for job creation, economic stimulus, and to give Filipinos, something to hope for this year and the next year?
Well, public-private partnerships, construction projects are going to generate employment opportunities. But my first priority, my own first priority, Cito, is I think we should first focus on health and education. Our health and education are in crisis, diba?
Yes.
We are at the bottom in terms of these tests, international tests, PISA tests, and then our health system is also kind of weak in terms of being able to handle so many people. And most of our hospitals are in Metro Manila. In the regions, kaunti lang mga hospitals doon. So my preference would be in before we put a lot of effort and focus on physical infrastructure, we should look at social infrastructure.
Okay. Having said that, quick last question, because we're running out of time again, Professor. Regarding, because I'm right, I actually just submitted my column for tomorrow, and it's all about telecoms. It's all about mobile.
Connectivity, yes.
Connectivity.
Yes.
No one seems to be discussing this in the new administration.
Yes. That's another priority, I think. Number one priority. Health, education, social infrastructure for this, for health and education. And then connectivity. Connectivity is very important also. And these are the things that are really badly needed, because we have a large population with high poverty incidence.
Is it possible for the government, you being the head of NEDA previously, is it possible for the government to just say, okay, Smart, Globe, Dito, and whoever, you can come to the Philippines, set up your cell sites, put up your businesses, bahala na si Batman, basta set it up that nationwide. Pwede ba yun? Yung parang blanket declaring the Philippines open for development?
In terms of, a cell site, building a cell site takes too long in terms of getting a permit. It takes too long to get a permit. So that is the way to do it. Let them be in terms of what they can deliver to improve connectivity. Importante yun because of our education and health
Yes.
system. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you get to read my column tomorrow, and I will make it a point to invite you again for our continuing series on economics and all of this, because it is always good to have someone who knows what he's talking about and who's had the experience. Anyway, Secretary Pernia, my apologies, but we have to go. Thank you very much for your time today, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cito.
Okay. God bless you, sir. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's Secretary Ernesto Pernia. And now we go to our blessing for the week. And a reminder for all of you, it is from the book of Psalms 77, verse 11 to 13. I will call to mind the deeds of the Lord. I will remember your wonders of old. I will meditate on all your work and muse on your mighty deeds. Your way, O God, is holy. What God is great as our God? May God bless all of you, bless all of your loved ones, bless the work of your hands, and thank you for joining us today on Agenda. Please keep it here on One News PH.